You know, less than a week ago, eyes were glued to a television or mobile device checking out the Florida-Tennessee game. And now those same eyes are watching the destructive effects of Mother Nature, specifically Hurricane Ian in Florida. Now, while Ian has just been downgraded to a tropical storm, according to reports coming in, there's been a severe impact in the Naples and Fort Myers areas. And as a former resident of Florida, having lived in Miami, Vero Beach, and Gainesville, my heart goes out to the folks living there. In fact, this morning I've been texting friends, family members, and clients who live in the state asking how they're doing, and if you know anyone living in Florida, I'm sure you've been doing the same. A buddy of mine who just moved to Orlando with his wife texted me this morning that they had been without power until about 8 o'clock this morning. Others in the state are doing far worse. Being in the real estate space in the greater Chattanooga, Tennessee area, I get a lot of questions from folks about severe weather in the state of Tennessee. Whereas Florida has to deal with hurricanes, Tennessee has to deal with tornadoes. So in this brief video, I want to share with you from reliable sources the similarities and differences between hurricanes and tornadoes. I'll provide you a chart to show those similarities and differences. Let me state up front, I'm not a meteorologist, atmospheric scientist, or weather expert. I'm merely providing you information from reliable sources so that you can be better equipped to deal with these kinds of inclement weather. And in the description below, you'll find links to those resources as well as links showing how to prepare for inclement weather events such as these. You'll also find links to agencies where you can make a donation to help out our friends and loved ones in the state of Florida. Our first resource is NASA. What is the difference between a tornado and a hurricane? Both tornadoes and hurricanes are characterized by extremely strong horizontal winds that swirl around their center and by a ring of strong upward motion surrounding downward motion in their center. In both tornadoes and hurricanes, the tangential wind speed far exceeds the speed of radial inflow or of vertical motion. Hurricanes always, and tornadoes usually, rotate counterclockwise in the northern hemisphere and clockwise in the southern hemisphere. The Earth's rotation determines the direction for the storm's rotation in each hemisphere. Local winds are sometimes able to cause a tornado to form that spins in the opposite direction from the typical direction for that hemisphere. The most obvious difference between a tornado and hurricane is that a hurricane's horizontal scale is about 1,000 times larger than a tornado. In addition, hurricanes and tornadoes form under different conditions or circumstances and have different impacts on the atmosphere. Tornadoes have small-scale circulations that are rarely more than a few hundred feet across when they touch the ground. Most tornadoes grow out of severe thunderstorms that develop in high wind shear environment in the United States Central Plains during spring and early summer. Many tornadoes form when the large-scale wind flow leads to a violent clash between moist, warm air traveling north from the Gulf of Mexico and cold, dry continental air coming from the United States Northwest. Tornadoes can also form in many other locations and from other forcing factors. For example, a hurricane making landfall may trigger many tornadoes to form. Tornado wind speeds may reach 100 to 300 miles per hour and cause havoc on the ground, but tornadoes typically last only a few minutes and rarely travel more than 10 to 20 miles along the ground. Tornadoes have little impact on storms that spawn them or collectively on the global circulation of the atmosphere. Hurricanes, on the other hand, are large-scale circulations that are 60 to over 1,000 miles across. Hurricanes form near the equator, generally between 5 and 20 degrees latitude, but never right on the equator. Hurricanes always form over the warm waters of the tropical oceans and generally where the sea surface temperature exceeds 26.5 degrees Celsius. A hurricane may travel thousands of miles and persist over several days or weeks. During its lifetime, a hurricane will transport a significant amount of heat up from the ocean surface and onto the upper troposphere or even lower stratosphere. Even though hurricanes form only sporadically, they do affect the global atmosphere's circulation in measurable ways, although this is still an active area of research. Our second resource comes from the American Geosciences Institute. How does the damage from hurricanes compare to that of tornadoes? The differences are in scale. Even though winds from the strongest tornadoes far exceed those from the strongest hurricanes, hurricanes typically cause much more damage individually and over a season, and over far bigger areas. Economically, tornadoes cause about 1/10 as much damage per year on average as hurricanes. Hurricanes tend to cause much more overall destruction than tornadoes because of their much larger size, longer duration, and their greater variety of ways to damage property. The destructive core in hurricanes can be tens of miles across, last many hours, and damage structures throughout the storm surge and rainfall cause flooding, as well as from wind. Tornadoes, in contrast, tend to be a few hundred yards in diameter, last for minutes, and primarily cause damage from their extreme winds. And here's a chart that may be helpful to you as you try to understand the similarities and differences between hurricanes and tornadoes. Hurricanes are circular and have a well-defined center. They form over water, and their speed is usually less than 180 miles per hour. They can be 200 to 300 miles across. They typically last 2 to 3 weeks, and the advance warning for hurricanes is usually 4 to 7 days, which is much better than tornadoes. Typically, there are about 10 to 15 hurricanes per year, and they can occur in the daytime or in the nighttime. In 2021, there were 161 fatalities due to hurricanes, and the approximate damage was $70.5 billion. Tornadoes, in contrast, are funnel-shaped. They form over land and travel at speeds at 160 to 200 miles an hour, but they can be as fast as 300 miles per hour. Typically, they're a half mile across and can last 15 minutes to an hour. The advance warning time is much shorter for tornadoes, only 10 to 15 minutes. 800 to 1200 tornadoes occur per year, and although they do occur during the day, a lot of times tornadoes occur at night. In 2021, there were 149 fatalities due to tornadoes, and the approximate damage was $27.1 billion. I want to thank you for watching this video, and be sure to check out the links below, especially those where you can make donations to help our friends, family members, and loved ones in the state of Florida.